Hey, what's up guys, Bajir here. So this is gonna be some of the first footage I did as Fury, and since I didn't really have like the best two-handed weapons at the time, I decided to do this sort of silly spec with a lot of self-healing with mending soul drinkers. I knew that healing was a little bit out of control. In beta, a little bit overtuned, a little bit overscaled for 85, so I figured that some of the self-healing that Fury was going to be able to do might be pretty funny to try out at an extreme level. So I put 2 soul drinkers on, with both had mending enchants on them, took second wind to be constantly healing myself, and of course glyphed bloodthirst to heal me more whenever you used it. So throughout these duels, you can get a feel for Fury damage and single-minded Fury. Keep in mind that this is not exactly an optimized damage dealing spec, since I didn't really like reforged for Fury stats, and I'm using weapons with no secondary stats, and they're essentially like tanking weapons, but they have the healing. So the funny part is how little damage I end up taking at the end of these duels. This is a duel against an arms warrior, and keep in mind that these aren't like, you know, necessarily the highest skill players. A lot of them are probably playing their classes for the first time in beta, and probably just getting a feel for the class, feel for the new talents and stuff. But this will give you a general rough estimate of how single-minded Fury will behave. You can bet that Fury will behave better than what I'm showing you right here, just because of the way I'm speccing and gearing my Fury warrior. So this is a duel against a Frost Mage. I do have my warrior spec very similarly to the way that I had him spec when I was arms. I still have shock. Oh wait, no, I don't have shockwave. I went for the Lulzy spec. That's right. I went for the Blade Storm spec. Here we go. So you can see dual mending soul drinker Blade Storm right here. I didn't get a whole lot of ticks of healing then, but as you can see, my health isn't really going down as long as I can get blood surges off, and perhaps the occasional mending proc, the occasional soul drain. Oh, this is bad. The mage tried to evo, and then he ended up dying. So that was kind of funny. In terms of mechanics changes for Fury, again, I haven't really played Fury that much, so I'm only going to tell you my basic first impression. A lot of what we do now is this ability called Wild Strike. As Fury before, I felt like we didn't have a whole lot you could do other than Bloodthirst, and if maybe you got a Slam proc, you do that, and Raging Blow every once in a while. But as Fury now, you spam Wild Strike quite a bit, and your Blood Surge proc, rather than giving you an instant Slam, because Slam is already instant, what it does is it gives you 3 Wild Strikes to use, and those Wild Strikes cost quite a bit less rage than normal. Alright, I'm gonna stop talking for a second. And now, if you want to rewind this video, you can. But look how much healing I did in that Blade Storm. So I was down to like 80k, and now I'm gonna end the duel at 100. So, like, I healed myself a shit ton in that Blade Storm. So that's pretty funny with this healing spec. But the DK probably could have out-healed me if he used Conversion. Right now, DKs can heal just forever with Conversion. Let's duel against the Boomkin. But anyway, Wild Strike on its own is a pretty cool ability. It applies your Mortal Strike debuff, and doesn't cost very much rage. It's really fast. You can pretty much spam it. I mean, it has no cooldown other than GCD. But along with the Blood Surge proc, the Blood Surge proc also reduces your global cooldown to 1 second. Not by 1 second, but to 1 second at once you have this little Blood Surge thing proc. So it reduces your Wild Strikes rage cost and reduces your global cooldown. So it seems like what Blizzard has in mind for your Blood Surge proc is either spamming Wild Strike like a madman for very little rage cost. Clone Reflect. Get owned. Sorry. That's what the mage said anyway. But yeah, you either have Wild Strike spam, or you have, you know, some Bloodthirst or Raging Blow. If those are up, they definitely want you to use those, which is why I think they reduce the global cooldown in general. And then, of course, you can just go ahead and spam Wild Strike like a madman if you don't have anything up to use after your Bloodthirst. So, a Fury, I don't know. I think that part of the reason why I'm not doing a ton of damage right now is because of my weapon choice. I feel like if I had more weapons, if I had better weapons, and if I had a little bit more sort of stat choices made, stat optimization for Fury, I could be dealing a lot more damage. But even as it is, using 2 Soul Drinkers, you know, there's no landslide procs, I'm using completely PvP gear. Fury seems to be dealing a bit of damage, and with all the utility that is not spec-specific, and by that I mean, like, you can still take Shockwave, you can still take Gag Order, you can still take Double Time if you wanted the double charge. I mean, And yeah, Intercept has been completely taken out of the game. So all you have to worry about right now is charge. So any sort of talent choices you make concerning your charge effect will transfer over to your Fury spec. So one of the concerns with Fury for a long time has been you need PvP. I mean, you need PvE gear to use that spec correctly. Here, my keybinds. This is just a keybind issue. I zoom in a whole bunch. But anyway, one of the issues with Fury is that it seems like you need a lot of PvE gear to make it effective. And with the way they're changing like the PvP gear with the PvP power, it seems like you might not be able to wear enough PvE gear to make Fury effective. That being said, I mean, I'm still dealing enough damage here. And if you take something like Shockwave, a lot of the problems that Fury Warriors have is hitting people. And I don't think you can miss when a target is stunned. So if you're going to stun somebody every 16 seconds if you're using Shockwave off cooldown, I mean, you're going to have Flurry up probably, you're going to be enraged, and you might be able to deal quite a bit of damage in those stuns. So I don't know. People have asked me if Fury is going to be something that's going to be effective in relatively high rate arena. And I'm not really sure. I'm going to pop wreck and trinket to execute that guy for 63k as single-minded Fury. So now keep in mind, this is like, I only played Fury for 1 day. I haven't been playing a lot of beta because at times it's really frustrating to constantly disconnect. But I do plan on getting some Titan's Grip action for you. I have gotten Girthalak, the normal version Girthalak, on my warrior, so I made 2 more transfer copies over to another server. So basically, if I had single-minded Fury on one server, I transferred him over as arms on that server with the Girthalak, and on my other server I have him as arms with the tier 1 weapon. But now I've got him as a Girthalak over there, and so I'm probably going to spec him as Titan's Grip Fury with Girthalak, and we're going to see how that goes. I do feel very strongly that arms is still going to be the choice for sort of high-rated PvP warriors. That being said, I'm not going to be surprised to see maybe some Fury Warriors in the mix as well. The reason why I think arms is still going to be the main choice is honestly just due to the fact that you don't have to have such a high hit cap to actually hit people. I do think that Fury does damage, and it'll be interesting to see the way all this utility translates, because a lot of times I feel like people chose arms for the utility aspect. At least I feel like I did. I definitely like to hit my targets, but you had cooldowns more often. You were a little bit more mobile, I feel like. You definitely were a little bit more resilient to damage as arms rather than Fury. But I think the main reason was maybe just that throwdown. That throwdown gave you a little bit of utility that you needed. But now that throwdown is not arm specific and Shockwave is any spec of warrior, you can take Shockwave, you could even take Stormbolt if you wanted to as a Fury Warrior, and you would have 2 stuns. You would have your Charge stun, you would have your Stormbolt, and you would have your Shockwave. So that's actually 3 stuns that you'd have. And the only real difference between you and arms is what skills you use. I feel like your Mortal Strike is actually more reliable and more easily applicable than your Mortal Strike is in arms. I mean, Wild Strike has no cooldown, doesn't even cost that much rage, and you can spam that, and that'll keep your Mortal Strike up for as long as you want to. Whereas Mortal Strike and arms will have a 6-second cooldown, and if you get parried, then you might have a chance of... If you get parried twice, then you're going to have a chance of having your Mortal Strike effect fall off of a target. So, I'm kind of curious to see where Fury is going to go in Miss Pandaria. Right now, it's kind of hard to tell because I'm playing single-minded Fury with 2 Soul Drinkers with Mending on them, so my damage isn't, you know, as impressive as it could otherwise be. But hang in there, this is just my first day of playing Fury. I've got this footage and I wanted to bring it out for you. But here pretty soon I'm going to be playing some Titan's Grip Fury with a Girthalak and just a tier 1 PvP weapon. Of course my stats won't be optimized, and with the introduction of PvP power, you might be at a little bit of a loss for some of the crucial stats you need as a Fury Warrior. But at the same time, you know, people love Fury. I still see people running around with their PvP gear on and two-handed weapons, you know? So there's going to be some Fury diehards out there who actually want to continue to play Fury, and they might actually be having a little bit more success than a lot of people will have expected them to have, you know, considering the way Fury has been in PvP since the sort of 4.03 nerfs, or after that, because for a little while Fury was the spec to play just because of the ridiculous damage it could put out. But then after those nerfs, it was kind of forgettable. I know in PvE people use Fury a lot, and I'm sure that Fury will be very, very interesting in PvE. This season in PvE, we saw arms sort of take the cake in terms of the way you could play PvE. I think a lot of people still played Fury, but Arms was so much of a viable option in PvE just because it did so much damage. I feel like now in PvE, Fury might be taking it back a very, very strong lead in terms of which spec you PvE in. But in terms of PvP, we're just going to have to find out. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time. Peace!